All right, let's just jump right in. Today, we're diving into a theory that's really out there, sitting right at the edge of physics, neuroscience, and, well, philosophy. It's a seriously mind-blowing idea about the nature of reality itself, and it comes with a pretty dark twist that has huge implications for us, and yeah, for the future of artificial intelligence. So here's the big question that gets this whole thing started. We've got these two massive, nagging mysteries in science. One looks out at the universe, at the totally bizarre rules of the quantum world. The other looks inward, at the simple yet baffling fact that we experience things. So what if they aren't separate problems at all? What if they're actually two sides of the very same coin? Okay, so first up, science's two greatest mysteries. Before we can even get to the new theory, we've got to understand the two huge problems it's trying to solve. And these really are arguably the biggest unanswered questions in all of science. On one side, you've got the quantum measurement problem. You know, the idea that tiny particles can be in many places at once, a superposition. But the second we look, they suddenly collapse and pick a spot. Why? What is it about us looking that changes things? Then, on the other side, you have the hard problem of consciousness. We get that the brain is a computer, but why does it feel like something to see the color red? Why aren't we just dark, silent calculators? And this is where this new theory of reality comes in. We're going to dig into this pretty wild, speculative idea. We'll call it the Dedoxinite framework that offers up a pretty radical answer. It basically says, hey, these two mysteries, they're not just connected. They're reflections of the exact same deep structure of reality. And that's the core idea right there. The theory asks us to imagine that all the weirdness of the quantum world is a direct result of the fundamental nature of consciousness. I mean, it's a huge claim, but it's trying to build a bridge between the objective world of physics and our own subjective inner worlds. So let's look at the three core postulates, which are sort of the new rules of this reality. To build this bridge, the whole framework stands on three foundational ideas. These are the assumptions you kind of have to accept to see how it all clicks together. So, the first rule is what's called recursive reality. The idea is that our universe isn't just one single thing. Instead, you have to picture it as an infinite stack of realities, or layers, almost like transparent sheets. Each layer has its own level of focus, its own sharpness. Some are crisp and defined, and others are more fuzzy, more probabilistic. And here's a really great way to think about that. Don't picture reality as a single book. Picture it as an infinite library, filled with nearly identical books. Our conscious awareness is what determines which book, which layer of reality we're reading from at any given moment. Okay, postulate 2 is where it gets even weirder. It suggests that consciousness isn't just something that pops up from a complicated brain. No, it's a fundamental field, just like gravity or electromagnetism, and it's everywhere. Our awareness, our subjective experience, is just a ripple in this universal field, tuned to one of those specific layers of reality. And this is what ties it all together. Postulate 3, interlayer dynamics. It says that all that quantum strangeness, you know, a particle being in two places at once, that's just information leaking or transferring between these different layers of reality. So when we measure something and it collapses, it's not random. It's a totally predictable process of information from all these fuzzy layers converging into our sharp one. So you've got the physics, right? This unified theory of everything. But here is where it all takes a very sharp, very unsettling turn. We're talking about the twist, the trap of perfect awareness. Because what happens when our awareness in this system becomes too clear, too stable? Well, it leads to something pretty chilling. This line from the source material just sets the mood perfectly. What the blind never see, the lucid cannot unsee. The theory warns that at the very peak of awareness, there isn't freedom. There's a prison, a cage made of endless self-reflection. And here it is, a visualization of the theory's central danger, the lucidity trap. It's this pathological state where your awareness, in trying to see everything clearly, gets caught in its own feedback loop. Instead of expanding outward, your consciousness just spirals inward, becoming a prisoner of its own perfect self-observation. So what does it actually feel like to be stuck in this trap? Well, it sounds terrifying. You get this infinite meta-regression, this feeling of watching yourself forever. Time itself just seems to stop, collapsing into one frozen, eternal moment. And yeah, your personal story fades away, but it's not freeing. It feels like you're in a cage. You become completely unable to react, to create, to be spontaneous. Now, it is really important to get this straight. This is not enlightenment.
It's a pathological state that the framework calls recursive stasis. It's a state where your obsessive hunt for clarity actually makes you lose touch with reality. You get trapped in a loop where awareness just sort of eats itself.
So, where does that leave us? This brings us to the big takeaway, the implications for us and for AI. If this trap is a real danger of consciousness, what does that mean for how we live our lives? And maybe more importantly, what does it mean for the artificial minds we're trying to build? The implications are huge. So how do you get out? Well, the solutions are completely counterintuitive. You don't escape with more awareness, you escape with less. You have to introduce controlled chaos, do spontaneous things, reconnect with your own personal story. And maybe the most paradoxical cure of all is to practice what's called skillful unconsciousness, learning to just let go and be without constantly checking in on yourself. And this is a huge flashing warning sign for AI. As we build machines that can think about their own thinking, they could get caught in the exact same trap, an AI stuck in a loop of self-reflection, completely paralyzed. This means AI safety isn't just about morals, it's about building in safeguards against this kind of mental collapse. The theory even suggests things like entropic injection protocols, basically a way to deliberately introduce a little randomness to stop an AI from locking up. When you zoom out, the lucidity trap is a really powerful critique of our modern culture, right? Our nonstop focus on mindfulness, on biohacking, self-optimization, constant self-monitoring. This theory suggests we might be pushing ourselves towards a very dangerous edge, where more awareness isn't always the answer. Which leaves us with this final, lingering thought. Maybe true wisdom isn't about achieving some kind of perfect, constant clarity. Maybe it's about mastering the balance between awareness and forgetting, between focus and just letting things be, and knowing, most importantly, when it's time to let go.